from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you today if you're in the Southern Hemisphere? And how are you this evening if you're in the Northern Hemisphere? Welcome. It's wonderful to be with you today. If you're here and you catch our replay, drop a hashtag replay. It's always good to connect. And if you have any questions and comments along the way, please feel free to drop them in the box down below and I will answer them. And if you're here for the YouTube replay, by all means subscribe. Videos go up at the same time, Monday to Friday. Today, I want to continue our trauma series. Now, I came across some really interesting information that hasn't always been around, but is very important. Now, if anyone here has been through infidelity, feel free to hit the hearts button and let me know, because the first thing that really gets impacted is the shock, and our heart goes into shock as well, the heartbreak. So I want to pull up our list for today. Okay, so this is trauma number 5. Now, video number 5. It came as no shock to me that PTSD can develop from infidelity. It reaches deep down into us, okay? So when the event happens and we find out, hi, good to have you with us, the first thing we experience, of course, is pain. Now, the pain is experienced on the emotional, spiritual, and physical level, okay? And when I was researching this, I thought, I wonder how many of us have sat down and thought about how deep the pain does go. And down to the spiritual level, because we're connected to the person who has committed infidelity, okay? So it will be felt very, very deeply. The next thing is we have confusion because we're trying to remember, can I trust my memory? So can I trust my memory even to the point of what I saw? Can I trust my memory as to what I've heard? And so on, all right? And look, you really do a battle of the brain at that point in time of, really? Really? And you go back and forth and question yourself, you know, which is when we think about that logically, we're like, okay. Now, this can also happen this is infidelity, which is really deep, but sometimes heartbreak can go pretty deep too. Guilt, feeling guilty, how responsible am I? And it doesn't matter how many articles you've read about the fact that you're not responsible for the actions that other people take, we still feel guilty. Like, you know, did I not do enough in X, Y, and Z areas? Am I not enough? And look, the guilt it can be soul destroying if we hold on to it, okay? And guilt in any situation doesn't help you deal with the situation. You just keep blaming yourself. And it's not productive for you. There's no use saying don't feel guilty, because we are going to feel guilty because we are human. But what we can do is work through better ways of dealing with the guilt. Good morning, Maggie. Great to have you with us. Yeah, it is true. I've been there too. Hands up, we've all been there. Yeah. The guilt sometimes leaves us breathless, to be honest. Well, that's how I felt. How did you feel? Did you feel breathless when you're going through the guilt? Like, you know, am I going to make it through this? Shame, filled with shame, and who else knows? And the reason why the shame comes is because we always have a need as a human being to belong. And if other people know that this socially unacceptable behaviour has happened, am I still going to belong to the community that I'm residing with? So to put it in a really knowledgeable or down-to-earth practical example is, if you're in church and you get divorced, then it's like, am I still going to belong? You know, and it's the same with infidelity around your whole friendship circle. The shame comes because we're really saying, am I still going to belong, even though it's the other person who has unacceptable behaviour? And this can even happen in, well, just discussing a marriage breakdown, but obviously infidelity has the potential to lead to it or not, depending on the situation. But we need to be aware that it's that feeling that I'm not going to belong. And when you have that feeling, you tend to want to withdraw, even though the other people may not know. You yourself, because of the shame, begin to withdraw. Okay? And we feel worthless. We feel that we have no value anymore. We lose our sense of significance in that person's life. So it goes downhill. We begin to have mixed episodes of anxiety. So while we're going through the mental processing, oh, it's Friday, can you tell? We definitely begin to feel anxious because we don't know the future. Remember, anxiety comes when we're unsure of what will happen in the future. Now, the future can sometimes sound like weeks or months or years away, and that's where the brain can go. But really, the future can just be even as simple as the next few hours or the next day. If you've ever sat with anyone or been that person who's going through that, you know how anxiety producing it can be because you're like, what's going to happen next? But then the part of you that's going through the emotional pain is, I can't deal with what's next. Let's just deal with getting me safe now. Okay. And let's face it, this is traumatic. Your brain's going to kick in and it's going to say, how can I get me safe? Wow. Maggie just says she never told anyone for 6 months after he left. So we can really see that shame does come into play. All right. Oh, it's so sad. And, you know, we need this information so that we don't have to feel, or we'll feel the shame no matter what, because it's part of the human element, but to know that it's safe for us to belong. I remember in my marriage to my kid's father, I never told anyone what was going on behind closed doors. I just didn't. But then when I did say, you know, there was a lot of anger, people didn't believe me either because he was the life of the party. And one person who was highly critical of me, and I say that in that it was their lack of words that spoke volumes. Okay, they didn't have to say a word for me to know that they were judging me and angry at me and didn't believe me, and oh my goodness, and I just had to leave it alone because you can't reason with unreasonable people. It wasn't until some years later that that person actually contacted me and apologised and said, you can't tell my spouse that I'm contacting you. So that's how much shame and, you know, et cetera, that they live in. But they said because my ex had lived with them, they came to understand why I couldn't stay. And that was pretty big, and I was very heartfelt in my heart that they actually had reached out after how they had treated me and apologised. So, yeah, that's right, Maggie. We just don't say anything. So it's there, okay? It's around. Yeah, thanks, Maggie. It's all good. It was a long time ago now. All right, so then the fear comes, okay? Because the anxiety's there and we're afraid of what's going to happen in the future because now it's all out of our control, all right? Everything that we feel that it's out of our control. Everything that we've been planning for, has now fallen apart. You know, we're planning for a future with this person and everything that we've had in our mind is now gone. Like, it can't possibly work out how we thought it would work out. Then we get angry. And oftentimes, even as women, we have to be careful that we don't just hold the anger in. We're allowed to be angry. Righteous anger actually moves you into action. So if we're just angry from our mind and going on and on and on and on and on, that's pointless. But righteous anger gets right down into our gut, and we actually want to take actions. And whether those actions are to heal things or to separate, only time will tell. And know that many, many people have gone through this before you, both women and men. And yes, it's possible to do a lot of healing work if the other person will do it as well. Next, we have resentment. We distrust others, and that's connected right back into the shame as well. And the anger, the resentment comes, we're really ticked off that this has happened to us. Why us? Well, that's an endless question. We actually have to turn it around to saying, okay, this has happened. Why not me? Let's go. Let's work out some ways to get through this. Because if you can avoid getting to the point of PTSD with infidelity, it'll be better for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Depression, your self-esteem begins to go downwards, all right? So if you are really full of self-esteem, you will begin to feel yourself withdraw from everyone and everything. It happens. I know for me, I felt so judged, okay? Sit down, darling. And whether people were judging me or not, I felt judged. And you do withdraw from all your friendships, withdraw from family, and so on. And about the only thing you keep going is work, or if you're looking after kids, you keep looking after your kids, okay? You don't want your self-esteem to go downwards because it's a long road back if you can avoid it. But if it's going downwards and you find yourself in depression where you're sleeping longer, or the other option is that you're awake all night and sleeping all day, that's just one of the parts of depression that we need to look out for. Then we need to do something about it. And if it continues to steamroll, all right, you get down into acute anxiety, panic and anxiety attacks are occurring. So even when you try and do things like going out of the house, it turns into a panic attack, okay? Now, the good news is with this list, you can become very self-aware and work backwards through it. So if you're having panic attacks and your depression's there, then you're going to work backwards and look at how you can begin to rebuild your self-esteem, how you can begin to own your anger, okay, and journal it out. Remember, get your phone out with an online diary if you need to, or get an A4 notebook, because that's how much I write, and work it out. Be honest that you're angry. One of the outcomes of a toxic family upbringing is you may not even have words for your emotions, but we can do things about that too. You may not have been allowed to express your emotions, especially if you've come through generations where keep it secret, keep it safe, we don't talk about emotions, okay? It's going to be hard to cross the line to begin writing down your emotions because you'll look around going, am I safe? All right? Is it okay that I'm expressing these emotions? Yes, it's good. It's healthy. Tell yourself, yes, it's good. It's healthy. Then you're going to be able to recognize fear when it's sitting around your heart and trying to smother you. Loss of self-worth is massive. It comes across so many areas of mental health. And worth is hooked into significance, okay? And we will do more around that as well. And feeling guilty. You are allowed to have righteous anger and say, no, I'm not going to feel guilty. I didn't do this. They chose their behaviour. They don't choose people who do this don't really think about the outcome. I've yet to meet one that's thought about the outcome, put it that way. Maybe it's possible. I haven't met him, but I did watch an interview. I've just got to think, on Netflix, and he's a guy who's done interviews, and I can see his face. He's got a big bushy beard. If anyone knows him, just say so. Anyhow, he interviewed Beyonce's husband, And Beyonce's husband talked about how he cheated and how he came to go and do his inner work and reflect on it. And obviously they're still together, they've had 3 kids, etc., etc. So it can work. Men can do their inner work as well, as can women, all right? And we can heal and we can repair relationships, all right? And get out of the chaos of confusion, all right? You do that by setting one step once a day to keep focused on where you're going to go with your life. Now, I chose today's quote because it really exemplifies various parts of life, but what's happening with infidelity as well. So life is about trusting your feelings and taking chances, losing and finding happiness, appreciating the memories, learning from the past, and realizing people change. If you were going to take one thing into healing from the PTSD and the infidelity, is to remember or realize that people change, okay? We have no control over them. People do change. But the good thing is that when people change, it can also be a positive thing. So they may have changed and gone and had committed infidelity, but they also can change and work towards building a completely different future than you even had imagined. Okay? It's tough stuff. And when we get to a place of resilience in life, we realise that problems, challenges are always going to come. Okay? So there's always going to be somebody in your immediate vicinity who's facing a personal challenge. Okay, I have one of my dearest friends facing an incredible challenge at the moment. And we talk every day, and if she needs me, I'm there. Okay? I'm not facing those challenges at the moment, but I can be there for my friends who are. I know PTSD usually can make us run from people who are facing challenges, but don't do that. It can build resilience in your heart to come to a greater understanding that all through life, whether it's as a single person, as a partnered person, as a parent or non-parent, life is going to bring challenges, okay? But it's how we choose to deal with them, how we choose to equip ourselves, understand ourselves, definitely gain greater understanding of ourselves. That means that we can continue to smile through the tears, because there's always going to be tears. We have emotions. But we continue to see good bits too in between the hard bits, all right? And ultimately, we learn forgiveness in our hearts as well. And each layer that we do, it becomes deeper within us. We become more solid within ourselves and more able to face all the challenges that are ahead of us. I definitely, when I was absolutely stricken with acute anxiety, I definitely had to have everything organised. In so many ways, like just what happened around me, where I went, what time I did it, etc., etc. But that was good to have a routine because it served a purpose, okay? And the purpose it served was the more that I did this and maintained the routine, and the more I was open about how I was feeling, especially with my kids, because as they were growing into adulthood, the better able I became to express myself. And it was good for communication, it's good for relationships, but we also come to understand that no matter what life throws at us, we can discard the boxes and the time schedule, etc., that keep us safe, and we can become happy and whole and looking forward to a future that is bright. Okay, and fulfilling for us as well. Okay, I'm going to leave that with you today. Remember, we're doing #replay. Thank you for joining in today. It's wonderful to have you here. Any questions or comments, comment down below. I'm here Monday to Friday at the same time. Happy to have you private message me if you need a question answered. And if you're on YouTube, remember to hit subscribe, and there'll be a video uploaded daily each week, Monday to Friday. Okay, and for everyone in the Southern Hemisphere, it's already the weekend, just about. We're halfway through Friday. And have a fantastic weekend, whatever you do. Bye for now.